To me, it was delightful. Honest to goodness village. There were brick walks that the Village Improvement Society built. Then they had oil lamps on the streets. Nearly everybody in town had half to 1 acre of ground. It was just a delightful atmosphere. I still can't get over it. I still say, I'm going to the village. Everyone in Falls Church used to have a front porch. I would love to just sit on my front porch watching the world go by, or just being still.
Well, hi, we're here with Mary Ellen and John Gannon on their Columbia Street home on their front porch, as I often find myself talking to people in the communities on their front porches, and I appreciate that. Thanks for having me over. It's a Sunday afternoon. We're in between rain showers, and it's thankfully we were able to fit this in. You've lived in this house how long?
Almost 8 years.
8 years.
8 years.
1992 we moved here.
Yeah.
February.
It's a very nice house. What drew you to the house?
Well, we had lived in the city, and we've always looked in the city. We lived in a small Cape Cod house, and we always wanted something bigger. And we had neighbors who were relatives of the owners of this house, and they told us about it. And we luckily got the house.
Yeah.
We actually fought like dogs to get there.
With a little luck.
We loved it.
A lot of luck.
Who, it was built in 1929?
1929.
Do you know any of the history of the house, of the other people who lived here?
It was built by a long-time family in the city of the Parrots. And Mr. Parrott was, for a time, the city clerk, or the town clerk here, and also worked for the federal government. And he lived here with his 3 children. And in the 30s, he moved away, rented the house for a time, and ultimately sold it. But it was occupied by some military families. In one period, a doctor lived here and actually ran his office out of here, on what is our sun porch now, as part of his receiving room. And then in the late 50s, it was bought by Al Kay and Lucy Kay, who are also very prominent folks in the city and in the establishment of the school system. We bought it from the Kay family.
Yeah, great. Yeah.
And one of the unique experiences we had is one of the Parrott children was a friend, or is a friend, of the Gibsons who used to live here, and came back and visited the home and told our children all about the home and where he used to hide. And it was a fun
I bet that was a lot of fun for you, and probably maybe even more fun for him.
We also, when we moved in, we found a picture that was in the cupboard, and it was a picture of the home that one of the Parrots had actually in his wallet overseas when he was in, was it World War II?
Yeah.
That he was.
It took us a while to, we had the address, and we tried to find Bob Parrott. And he's now in his, I think, probably later 70s. He lives out in Oakland, California. And we called around. I called to some of his cousins who didn't know where he was, and then it was ironically right across the street. Bunny Gibson had played baseball with him here in town, and he came to visit the Gibsons, and as Mary Ellen said, came over. It was a terrific evening because he took our kids around and showed them little things about the house that we wouldn't even have noticed ourselves. There were, for example, little dust catchers in the stairs, these metallic things that curve off the corners. And it's the first thing he saw when he came in. It brought back memories to him. and what is a spice spice shelves in our kitchen. He remembered was an ironing board that could be pulled down. Then he took them up and showed them each of the rooms. There were 3 children, I think Catherine, Jack, and Bobby, and he told them who slept in what room and what the house looked like then. There's only been one addition to this house, which was put on in the late 50s by the Kays, which is the upper part of our sun porch. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, it's intact.
Yeah.
And one of the neat things about getting in touch with Bob Parrott was he also sent pictures. We have in the house an original picture of just when the house was just finished, with Mrs. Kay and the children, little toddlers, on the porch. And one of the not surprising things when you think about it, about a house like this, is that so many of the pictures end up being on the porch.
Yeah.
Every visitors coming, you have a picture on the porch when leaving on the porch. Part of that,
if you're going to back away and take a big picture,
It's perfect.
Part of it, I guess,
you
is
can't do that inside very
We
often.
always knew that the light would be guaranteed when you come out, but the other part of it is it's just a tradition to sort of
and it's just a
come out into
comfortable place. And this is a particularly nice porch.
like coming to the bridge of a ship.
Yeah.
You,
and it's a real substantial front yard. Was Columbia Street there when this was built? To your knowledge, everything there?
It was,
and it's there's several other houses, I guess, of a similar
The house across
age.
the street was built in 1890. It was there. The house next door was also there, but it actually burned down in the early 70s, I think it was. But
Part of it did. Was it all?
It has been rebuilt. And then there's a White House, a couple of White Houses up here in the westerly direction here that were here.
Yeah.
Much of this direction was built afterward.
Yeah, it's a nice street. There's a lot of
Different
porches
homes.
and there's variety. And have you again, this is fairly far off the road, but it's still pretty much in touch with the
It's
street.
a great
I'd say.
setback. Well, the other neat thing about a porch is when you sit on a porch, you're in your house, but you actually get to look at other people's property.
Yeah.
So you have to worry about whether they cut their bushes and lawns and that, because that's the vista you enjoy.
Right.
So we really enjoyed it, and it was one of the things that attracted us to the house. We always wanted a big porch.
A lot of folks we've talked to have said they've met a lot more neighbors for having a porch than they would have otherwise, because it's a pretty welcoming thing to
It is.
to a house.
It is. It's fun to watch the people going back and forth using Madison Park or just walking in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
See lots of people.
And I grew up in New England in a white wood frame house like this with a front porch. Also the place where I've got a number of pictures now that go back several generations, and everybody ended up on the porch at one time or another. It's the most common aspect of the house that ends up in a photograph.
Well, this is a really nice one, really comfortable, and you've even got the blue ceiling that's really traditional. And how do you these days? How do you use your porch other than for photo opportunities?
Use it just to come out and sit, and I like it particularly in the evening. John does too, but I think John uses it in the morning to read the newspaper on a weekend, but I love it in the evening because it's peaceful. I love to come home from work and pull out a book, or when the children come over, I love to just sit out here and talk.
Yeah. And on a
Every
Sunday.
generation uses it.
Yeah.
And my parents used to love the porch. The kids, Elizabeth will have all of her high school friends out here, and we use it with our friends. It's a place where you relax. One thing, it's not a place where you have formal conversation. It's just almost by design that you sit down and you relax with people.
Yeah. Well, as I was saying earlier, I this is not my first career or anything. It's not a career at all. But the fact that I meet people generally in doing this and sit on the front porch, I'm not sure I can pull this off in a different setting. But it's a very natural, comfortable way to sit down and meet people and talk to people and talk to them about something that they typically like very much.
Yeah, you do. You tend to mix it up with people in the neighborhood, people who are walking down the street, and then with each other on the porch. But I think the part that I also enjoy, frankly, is that is a way you can be by yourself, but you also can sort of commune with nature. If you're in the house reading a book, it's very different from being out here. There are sounds out here. If you listen, there are birds. You can hear a car. It's a wonderful place to listen to rain, assuming it's not coming laterally and hitting you. So all the the senses, it's more acute when you're sitting, confronting the outside, and you can be alone to do that. So I find it very relaxing just to come out here by myself. I will sometimes at night turn on the light and come out and read.
Well, I sure believe that. I mean, it's a great porch. It's a very nice house, and as I tell most people I meet, I really appreciate you having me over.
Oh, it's delighted to have you.
Oh, great.
It's just the only place we'd have you, right on the porch.
Well, I'm going to try and squeeze in and get a little tour of the house, if that's okay.
You're welcome to come in.
Okay. Well, thanks a lot.
Yeah,
appreciate it.
You're most welcome.
Delighted to have you.
Thanks.
Nearly every street in Falls Church was arched over with trees. You walked under a bower. That's what made Falls Church so attractive.
Well, Barbara, here we are in the rain, under the bowers, being protected by these trees. Well, where are we?
We're on South Virginia and Broad Street, right across from the new pancake house, the former Shoney's, and the Exxon station.
Watching all these cars run the red lights and going crazy here down Broad Street.
I understand there's upwards of 50,000 cars.
Yeah, and I
think
half of them run the red lights here in Virginia. This is quite amazing. But when they turn down South Virginia, something happens.
Yeah, I think it's the bower of trees. At least we like to think so.
Yeah.
It's a residential neighborhood, of course, and it's just so cool, calm. It's just peaceful, very comfortable. I think the trees help kind of give a sense of clean, too.
Well, you said something about the 4 C's.
Yes. Cool, comfortable, clean, and what else?
Cool, comfortable, clean, and comfortable. I don't know. You had another one, but it was great. I can't remember it either. We should take notes. Well, the trees definitely do it, and these trees don't look real old, so, I mean, have these been here for a long time? Or
my guess is about 50 years.
Oh, these are 50-year-old trees? Well, those are small.
This area, I guess, is
right.
originally part of Mattie Gundry's farm.
Right.
And the Tyler Gardens was done in 1948, the year you were born, Dave.
That's right. Good year. Great year.
And the trees were probably planted right in that time frame.
Okay.
And
so this was clear cut. There were no trees here when they did that. And so this is an example of some good planning, isn't it?
Right.
And planting.
Right. So if you were a tree, you'd be this big now.
Yeah, oh, jeez. Darn. Well, I think the neighbors and the cars like it. I guess when they get in their cars here, they're not at the usual 150 degrees they are in the summer.
Right.
And helps the air conditioning bills, I think, on these. And it sure slows these down. I mean, you see cars zipping by here at 30, 40 miles an hour. And 50, and another one just ran a red light right now.
Yeah.
And but once they come down here, they slow down. Even Airborne Express slows down when they come down this. So those trees sure help. Now I understand that every street in town is not like this.
Right. We're having. I understand there's a new neighborhood program, and I think we're going to meet Annette Mills here in a few minutes.
The neighborhood tree program.
Yes, exactly right.
And that is the coordinator of it?
Coordinating that, so I think
great.
we'll see some improvements on specific streets around town.
So I think the first one they're working on is Chereau Avenue, right down the street, and a relatively treeless street, at least over the street. And so I guess you're going to be talking to Annette right now.
Love to.
Good.
Looking forward to some new trees on.
Yeah.
Okay, here we are, Annette, at a street that is missing its trees.
Well, it's not exactly missing trees. It's got some trees, but they're set fairly far back from the street, and really needs some street trees here, I think.
What would you guess? We have probably maybe 6 really large trees, and the rest look like they're relatively newly planted, and for instance in this yard here.
Yes, right. But We need some more on this street. We're on Sharrow Avenue, and this is one of our pilot project areas for our new Neighborhood Trees program.
Let's talk about that neighborhood tree program.
Okay.
Now, this is a new program.
That's correct.
And you are the volunteer coordinator.
That's correct.
This is not a paid position.
This is
so
correct.
I'm going to just thank you very much in
Oh, well, you're
advance.
welcome. You're
And
very
then
welcome.
we have, how is this program going to work? Just briefly, how you...
Well, basically, the program is designed to involve Falls Church citizens in increasing the number of street trees that we have in the city of Falls Church. And we've got three primary objectives. The first one is to identify and map the vacant street tree sites so we know where trees are needed. The second is to educate our citizenry on the value of trees and to just let people know that there are a lot of opportunities for tree planting here in the city. And then thirdly is to assist the city in the purchase, planting, and maintenance of the trees. And citizen volunteers are going to be very important to all aspects of the program, especially our what we're calling our neighborhood tree coordinators.
Right.
And each street in Falls Church, hopefully in the next few months, will have a street neighborhood trees coordinator to help educate the people in their neighborhood about the program and about how they can be involved.
Great. Well, I sign up.
Good, good.
Well, it sounds like it might be expensive. How's that going to work? Do we have sponsors? And
Well, we have three groups that are sponsoring. It was initiated by the Village Preservation and Improvement Society, which is the organization that I represent. The Village Society was founded back in 1892, and one of our primary missions has always been to plant trees in the city of Falls Church. So the Village Society is one of the sponsors, and then we approached the city's tree commission, which is involved with advising the city council and city staff on tree-related issues, and so they're a second sponsor. And then our third sponsor is the Recreation and Parks Division for the city of Falls Church. The landscaping division is the one that we're working with closely on that. So the three groups are working together to figure out how we're going to be raising funds and exactly where we'll be planting and so on and so forth.
And so you're the coordinator.
That's
of
correct.
Of these
Yeah.
many people.
Right.
So what if I lived on this street? What would I do as a citizen? And I want a tree. I wanted,
Right, if
I
you
wanted
were
to get the look we had on South Virginia.
Right. If you're a property owner in the city of Falls Church, that's the number one prerequisite. You have to own property in the city of Falls Church in order to qualify for the Neighborhood Trees program. There are about three different ways that you could go about letting us know that you're interested. First is you can go to the farmer's market on Saturday mornings between 8 a.m. and noon and stop by the Village Center booth, which is run by the Village Preservation and Improvement Society.
That's where they have the great coffee.
That's correct.
Okay.
That's correct. And all the funds that we raise there go to plant trees in the city. So you can go to the Village Center booth at the farmer's market. Second is folks can call the supervisor of the landscape division, and her number is 703-248-5105. And if you just leave your name, address, phone number, she'll give you a call back and get the ball rolling there.
Okay.
And the third thing is there are some neighborhoods already that do have a volunteer street neighborhood trees coordinator. And so if people know who that person is in their neighborhood, then they can let that person know. Once a person has indicated their interest, then the landscape supervisor will need to go out to that property and determine whether or not a street tree can be safely planted in that area.
Right.
So
some of the
that's-
medians aren't very wide, and
exactly.
the
Yeah.
tree that's called for
Right.
may be different.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Are you? When did this program begin?
Well, we launched it in April, right around Arbor Day. A study had been released in the last few months by the city indicating that we were losing street trees at an alarming rate here in the city of Falls Church, and that's been happening in a lot of communities around the country. In fact, in the last 12 years or so, we have doubled the number of vacant street tree sites that there are in the city. So there seemed to be a real need. I know a lot of people have scratched their heads and said, well, gee, we are Tree City USA. Why are we losing trees? And there are a few reasons. One is things like improper pruning, trenching going on where it cuts the roots whenever underground utilities are put in, or
Cable,
yeah, that kind of thing, or you know, so there are a number of reasons. Of course, the drought situation too, the last few summers have impacted the trees considerably.
And like everything else, they get old.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
Well, and that sounds like a wonderful program, and I guess we'll
Thanks.
start seeing results pretty soon.
I hope
because
so.
I'm sure our listeners are really anxious to get these trees on the streets so we can have
Good.
such beautiful bowered streetways in the city.
Great. Thanks, Barbara.
Thank you.
Well, that was great. Now, you know, Annette volunteers that position, you know, even though she's a city employee. During that, she volunteers her time. And I'm looking forward to this. I guess by the next year this time, we're going to see some pretty good trees.
Yes, and I think we ought to mention too that this year we're getting significant rain.
Yeah,
And
right now.
We're getting
Right
it
now.
in nice intervals, and
Yeah.
soaking rains are very good. And I think last year it's making up for all the drought that we had. And you'll see a lot
Yeah.
of trees that are suffering from some dieback. And this year I hope that I'm sure there's going to be some really thick tree rings on a lot of these trees.
That's right.
So the measuring of the rainfall is really helpful so that people can actually get out and water, deep soak their trees when we don't get that rain.
So we'll have a greenscape all around Falls Church,
Yes.
won't we? Okay, great.
That's my best wish.
I
Yes.
know. Okay. Thanks, Barbara.
Thank you.
Uncle George used to take me down to Mankin's Notions and Dry Goods, a corner store at Broad in Washington, where the office building is now. She always had candy, which was something we couldn't have at home. It was a great treat for me to go to Mrs. Mankin's store and have those marvelous penny candies. Uncle George used to carry me down to the store and get them for me. Mother didn't approve, but he did it just the same. I enjoyed it.
I'm Mike Diener, and today we're at one of my favorite gathering spots in Falls Church, and of course, that would involve food. We're at Kennedy's. Well, here we are at Kennedy's. Can you tell us how long Kennedy's has been around?
Kennedy's been around about 35 years.
Where do most of your clients come from?
Different offices in the area. People come from all over for soups in afternoon for lunch, but mostly lunch from Lee Highway, that area, post office, the main post office, gentlemen in here, but just the local people come for lunch. I like to help people. That's what it's all about, really. You know, the service. The people, yes. I mean, business is wonderful, but based on serving people. See, you're ordering Power Veggie, and people have misconception that avocado is really fattening. If you don't eat meat, and if you really watch and combine food properly, you literally lose weight by eating a lot of green foods and raw foods, honest. You know, so that's, thank you. I appreciate your comment. You know, I live that way. I believe that's a way of life. No diets, no, you know, being hard on your body. Just living that way. That's, yes. And some supplements and staying happy. And then soups. We sell soups.
Oh, yeah.
Summer, winter, we sell soups. Today we have barley soup, barley vegetable soup, split pea vegetarian soup. What else do we have? Green lentil soup and zucchini soup. Okay, would you like to try? My favorite is the spinach potato soup. I don't have it. today. But I like them all. I love soups. I grew up in Poland when it was cold. My mother used to cook soups daily. And I think soups are very nourishing, hearty, feels good, right? We eat a lot of soups in here.
So is most of your customers vegetarians or?
Not necessarily, no, but they come for healthier food. The boar's head's meats have almost no preservatives, no additives of any kinds. It's a high quality meat. And when they taste it, they want to stay with it. A lot of customers, they love the meats. They're just good. And we make lasagna, vegetarian lasagna. Sometimes we prepare organic chicken dishes.
I feel the power. It's excellent.
Luis has been with us for about 9 years, Luis, right?
Almost 8.5.
8.5 years. He started when he was, what, 16 or 17? 17.
Yeah, I started working part-time.
Part-time, he was in high school. And I owned the store for about 10 years, so he's been almost the whole time with us. And he's a great employee and helps with customers, great guy. I like to have him for a long time. And this is my son. He's helping in the summer and with my daughter and doing great. Without Angelica, nothing would happen in here. She's my favorite girl. Get her recipes. Does she make them up? And this is my daughter Elaine. And
You like working here? Yeah. So where do you get your recipes?
from my head,
Your head?
pretty much. I follow my mother's sort of ideas. I learned very early, and I had to. It was 4 kids in a family. If I wouldn't cook and help my mother, we would not eat. So a lot of those recipes, they came from home, from Poland. The soups, you know, and the sandwiches. I was reading a book, Fit for Life. I got some ideas from that book, and then I just did to my own personal taste. And we do it and customers. Mark says, I like this. John says, I like that. I like this better than the other. And we just continue doing. I kind of improvise, that's the word. Try things, and that tastes better. So, yeah, me and Angelica, we just try things. And with this type of cooking, you don't really have to cook a lot. You saute, add different herbs, mix it, and it works. It's just a lot of salad that come out from tasting and playing with the food. Since we don't really cook, we serve a lot of raw salad.
Well, I had the Power Veggie, which was superb. I tasted 2 different soups, the barley soup and the split pea, which was fantastic. And now I'm going to try to waddle out of here.
I loved going to the village. Everybody knew everybody. I would say, hello, Mrs. Brown, or hello, Mr. Hawkshurst, and they would all know me and my kin.
Well, we're here today in Falls Church with William Ball, one of Falls Church's most familiar faces for many years, and his ancestors before him were also very well known. William, you're also known as Billy Ball. I've seen pictures of you at this house, which is now the location of Garnier and Garnier Attorneys at Law. And it says 109, meaning Rowell Court, but this used to be the home of Ambrose Rowell,
Correct.
his wife. And it used to be 923 West Broad Street, I'm sorry, right near West Street. And welcome to the show.
Well, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
So you've been in Falls Church for a little while. When did you come here?
Well, I was born in 1922 in Washington at Columbia Hospital for Women, and shortly thereafter, I came to 929 West Broad, which is right next door, and lived there until I was married.
Well, we have a picture of it right here, too. This is a very nice picture of your house. and we'll look at that. And that's now the picture, that's where Catalano's is now.
Yes,
right?
Catalan's is there, and as you know, my grandfather had a lot of acreage, and when my mother and father were married, he gave them an acre.
Wow.
And then he had
that.
And I do. And then not only did the family generosity didn't stop there, he had a sister-in-law who was a widow. His wife's sister, she was quite well-to-do, and she gave him the house, had the house built for him.
Oh, nice.
So that was a pretty nice wedding present. An acre of ground and a house on Broad Street in Falls Church.
I wish I had relatives like that. My goodness. Now you live next door. Your next door neighbor was your grandfather.
That's right.
Ambrose Rowell, and his wife was named?
What was her?
Well, that's okay.
Died
We'll go back to that. Okay.
Yeah, I'll think of it in a minute.
Right, okay. And now he lived in this house. This now is a business court, and it's been done very nicely to preserve the house, and we're really grateful to Garnier and Garnier for having this, and they even recently redid the porch. Did you spend much time here?
A lot of time here. This was almost just like, for all practical purposes, I had two houses, two homes. I came and went. You never had to knock on the door or anything. And my mother's younger sister, her husband died here in this house.
Okay.
And then she came from he was with the Geological Survey. So upon his death, she came and kept house for my grandfather with her daughter, youngest daughter.
Okay.
So.
Now, this area was called Ivy Hill. We just discovered that. And they knew they had ivy here, but it was also built by George Ives. Now, Ambrose Rowell is going to become a well-known person in town. He used to be. He was an associate judge at the pension and Board of Pension. But he, as far as we know, was the person who founded the first Arbor Day in Virginia and was here in Falls Church. And we're going to build a monument. Can you tell us anything you know? You knew Ambrose Rowell, didn't you?
Well, I knew it. Oh, yes, sure. He's quite a gardener. I didn't know about the Arbor Day.
Okay.
But he had a tremendous garden in the back here. And in the vegetable and fruit line, including not only fruit trees, but things like raspberries and blackberries, he raised it.
Well, this felt like a farm almost, didn't it?
Well, yes, he did it on sort of a small scale. I mean, I don't know how much volume he had, but he raised everything.
It's like a gentleman's farm.
And he had a hearing problem. He was deaf. And I think gardening...
Isn't that difficult for a judge?
I think, well, I don't know where he was before he retired tonight. He might have been, yeah, might have been.
How could he hold a hearing? Right?
And so I think he enjoyed working in the garden because you don't have to talk to anybody.
Right. That's good. And he had a stream in the back.
Yeah, and that was all unimproved when I was a kid, just a field in the back. And,
I kind of would like to have that again.
Yeah, I would too. We used to cut Christmas trees. You know, they had some pine trees around, and we used to go back there every once in a while and either cut down a tree that was the right size or cut down a larger tree and then cut the top out of it for
Interesting.
Christmas
Well, this
tree.
was, I guess, a rural field then. This was the edge of civilization, from what I understand, right here in the West End.
Well, there were some houses up near where the railroad tracks cross Route 7. Yeah, not too far. Coming down here today, I remember Falls Church must have had an anti-fireworks ordinance of some kind before the county, because I can remember at Haycock Road and Route 7, there's a grocery store. It's where that Long John Silver,
right, yes,
called Willett's store.
Okay.
And Willett sold fireworks that you couldn't get in the town. So we'd go up there to get torpedoes that you threw and 2-inch salutes and all that good, safe stuff.
You know, and that's where we hold our fireworks every 4th of July, right there. Now, right in the background, you can hear all this noise. There's a lot of traffic. 54,000 cars go by here every day. Did you have that many when you were growing up?
No, I can remember vaguely when they paved West Broad. I think it was 1925 or 26 or something like that. So I was about 4 years old, I think, when they
Now,
paved.
you had just told me a story about one of your relatives. I can't remember, was your mother or somebody used to go up to where the State Theater is now. I guess it was probably before the State Theater was there, and it was the inn that was up there. And she used to sled. Tell me that story.
Well, they had horse and wagon, and they'd get somebody to one of the I guess, William Rector worked for them. I guess they'd get William to hook up the horses and take them up to there. Oh, maybe they walked, I don't know. Yeah,
here, right?
or maybe they walked, I don't know. And she said they'd get a running start on their sleds going down Lee Highway from where the State Theater is, cross Broad Street, and go on down past the Old Falls Church, Episcopal Church, and come to a halt somewhere down there where Annandale Road runs into.
Can you imagine that?
Doing that today.
54,000 cars that go by there every day. That's great. Well, what was some of your best memories about right around here?
Well, I just remember a very happy childhood. We played all sorts of games. We had, I was telling you, the lady that lived in that house right over there
We call that the Henderson house. There's two Henderson houses.
Well, it could be. We never knew it. There was a couple that lived there. I think both worked, and one of them's mother lived there, and she didn't like baseballs and rubber balls and footballs and everything coming into her yard.
Or William balls.
Well, yeah, she didn't like the little kids running in there either. But she'd get the ball before you did, and I bet when finally, she must have had quite a collection of balls, because we were all kind of afraid of her.
Eventually, now this this house during, I guess it was the 60s, was an antique, and even had a flea market here. I wonder if any of those balls made it over here.
I don't know. It was owned, I think who did the family sell this to? They sold it to the television, I guess, who had the paper.
Right, yeah.
And it was the headquarters for the paper for a while. And then it became
the
antique.
Echo, the Falls Church Echo
yeah.
here.
Then it became the
flea market.
The flea market, yeah.
Well,
but one of my memories is Father Van at St. James Church. Now, Father Van was quite a moral influence in West Falls Church, and I don't think it ever occurred to any parent, Dave, to ever, regardless of what church you belong to question Father Van. And there used to be an itinerant fellow called Tin Tin John that walked around town, and I think he sharpened scissors and he fixed pots and pans.
Right.
And we used to tease it. He didn't speak much English.
Right.
And we used to tease him unmercifully.
Kids do that, yeah.
So one time we threw stones at him. So the phone rang one evening, and it was Father Van. And one no, my mother, if she would send me over to the church. He wanted to talk to all the kids around here. So the Clatterbuck boys went, a couple of them, they were Baptists, we were Episcopalians. Father Van, and it didn't occur to my mother or to anybody else to say no. Father Van said, come over there, you came over. And then he told us about Tin Tin John. He was Belgian, spoke Flemish, showed us some of his writing, wrote beautiful hand, but all in Flemish. And he made us feel about that big without ever raising his voice or threatening us. So he didn't live very long after I was born, I don't think, but I have a fond memory of him. And the nuns over there too.
Well, you know, that's a good example of the phrase, which has been used and politicized and everything, but an old African phrase, it takes a village to raise a child.
That's right.
And it sounds like Falls Church was very much like that. We look forward to talking with you some more, and I really...
Well, I enjoyed being here. You better hurry up before the memory's going fast.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Ball.
Okay.
I heard music everywhere in town. A lot of folks had pianos and other instruments in their homes, and I could just walk up and down the street and hear people playing pianos and violins and singing. Some fellas were always sitting on the front steps of the stores down by the crossroads playing harmonica. Of course, there was music at church on Sundays and Wednesdays. A band always played at town picnics. One of my favorite things was dances at the Oddfellows Hall.
Well, you sure do have music everywhere in Falls Church City, and this afternoon we're at Fox's Music Company and we're visiting with Steve Dawson of the Virginia Coalition. How you doing, Steve?
Hey, Jim.
Good to see you. How'd it go Saturday night?
Went excellent. It was sold out crowd, just good ego gig.
Really?
Good gig on the old ego.
Yeah. Steve and the coalition, Virginia Coalition, was at the garage on Saturday night, and well, I noticed, in fact, in the ad I saw, it said all ages. What does that mean exactly?
That means anybody can come, whether you're 12 years old, 10 years old, and I think that they segregate the drinkers from the non-drinkers by a bracelet of some kind. I don't know. I don't drink. I was backstage all the time. I don't know exactly how the legality works, but.
Well, it's refreshing. It really is. I know all age shows is pretty neat, and I guess that means
anybody... I think it's good because, you know, when I was 16, I was looking for something to do, you know, and my parents might not have wanted me down in D.C. hanging out, but it's a really safe neighborhood, and it's, you know, the metro runs right there up at DuPont. And
Steve, I see the name of your new album is Townburg. What's that mean?
It's kind of just a funny spoof off all these places we play. We're a band that we're not really trying to go right to the label side of things, so we tour a lot. And we play about 4 or 5 shows a week, and if you notice, you go through all these states, there's so many similar little towns that either have the suffix of burg or ville or borough, and we tried to kind of make a spoof off of that, you know.
Well, it's exciting, and I see that you've got a looks like a 40s picture of a union shop or some sort.
Yeah, we actually were having problems coming up with cover art, and the guys that printed that up in Seattle had that on file, kind of like a public access file photo, and we liked it and used it.
Yeah. Well, let's hear a little bit of it. I think you're going to cut into some of the music here for a second. Steve, how'd you get started? I know your group's a success, and I think every listener probably wants to know about it.
Sure. Well, we all the guys in the band went to high school together, whether some form or another, at the same high school, T.C. Williams in Alexandria, Virginia. Me and about 2 or 3 of the other guys went off to college, did our 4 years, graduated from there. Actually, I went to school down in New Orleans, and I credit a lot of being able to play. I had what they call the white man's disease, in which I was a rhythmless, you know, had nothing going for me. And 4 years down there amongst all the good backbeat funk and stuff really taught me, you know, what I didn't make in classes and where I missed going to class and stuff, I made up in learning about, you know, all different kinds of music. And came back from college, and everybody was kind of getting out at the same time, and instead of getting real jobs, we, you know, decided to do this.
Well, wait, Steve, I know, I hope this doesn't embarrass you, but I've asked you before because I work with you at Fox's Music, but how are you able to fit in another job? I mean, it seems to me...
It's pretty impossible. You know, I've been lucky enough to have, you know, managers and bosses like you that have been so flexible to accommodate my schedule. You know, I'm basically kind of down to early in the week because Wednesday through Sunday I'm on the road and gone, and it's wonderful. I actually just love coming into Fox's to kind of get away from everything. It's a sanctuary of sorts.
Well, I've also heard him say that, in fact, if he doesn't get up, he just sleeps the day away.
Yeah, that's good.
Steve, where do you go from being a good group, a good band, and when do you know that you've made it? How do you get a manager, and when do you know that you've become successful?
Well, we are actually self-managed, and that might not be for long. We're actually entertaining some management offers. You start off, you call one of the local booking agents, and they put you on what you call the menu venue circuit, which is all the restaurants and places where you're going to be hearing people yell "Free Bird" and "Brown-Eyed Girl," and it's, you know, kind of got to play some covers and stuff. And then if you succeed on that circuit for, I don't know, about a year, we played on that for about 8 months, and then somebody from Cellar Door Entertainment or More Music Group came out and saw us at Bad Habits, where we had taken over Eddie from Ohio's weekly gig, and they liked us, and then they start booking you at colleges and radio stations and stuff, and so on and so forth, you know. And then hopefully that's the level we're at now. After you crush that regional level, you get passed on to a national booking agency, which...
Do you, when you, I know on some Mondays you come in and you've been on the road for 4 days. Give us an example of a college weekend, for instance.
Well, let's see, you know, you could do a Virginia thing. You could go to UVA and head to Richmond and go to Tech and then swing back up to JMU. That happens all the time. We actually, two weekends ago, we did a Wednesday night in Cleveland, Thursday night in Columbus, Ohio, which is a college town, Friday in Chicago, Saturday in Cincinnati, and then we came back to Dewey Beach on that Sunday. So that was probably one of the tougher 5 days.
Have you already been to Dewey Beach?
Yeah, that was 2 weeks ago, yeah. But we were in Cincinnati the night before, so we had to drive through the night and make sure we got to Dewey Beach on time on Sunday. So
That's wild. That is
it's
wild.
not, it's a very time consuming, and if everybody that's in your group doesn't have that same goal and isn't willing to put the full commitment into it, then it won't work.
Right.
And I'm the only one that is still clinging on to having a bit of a day job, and it hadn't gotten in the way at all because of the flexibility of Foxes and stuff.
I'm really impressed. I'm very flattered. I've heard you play a number of times, and we love you. And I know that Virginia and Falls Church can be really proud of you.
Oh, yeah.
And I want to thank you for being here, buddy.
No problem, man.
Sometimes I would walk to and from the village along the roads, but I loved to walk the trails and alleys behind houses, through fields and woods. It just seemed more special.
We're at the Thomas Jefferson Elementary School parking lot it's called the back of the school along Seton Lane, and here's the parking lot and there's the school. And there's a unique small trail. It's the newest trail in town. It's a wonderful wood chip trail. It goes on the buffer side of the property by the parking lot, and it was recently constructed over the last couple of years, and is still in construction phase. It's called the Thomas Jefferson Nature Trail, and it includes a butterfly garden, totem pole, and native trees. And let's take a walk down and we'll learn about it and see what we have here. We've had a wet summer, and it's interesting to see the variety of mushrooms that are growing up through the chips. But as we come up to the mulched area, we have some interesting trees that are growing here. We're right over the Reagan branch of Tripp's Run, which is an underground stream. It was overground, but it was piped, and literally we're on top of it right now. And from what I understand, the mulched area represents that stream, which hopefully one day will be uncovered, and the students will have an opportunity to do some nature studies here. But these are fringe trees that were planted here. In fact, one of them was planted to honor the first one that was planted here honored Annette Mills, who is an ecology club founder who will meet in a few minutes, and she's the one who originated this concept. We have a pawpaw tree here, which has a wonderful fruit on it, and these fringe trees will all start filling in over the next couple years. And then we're entering the original area of the butterfly garden that was started I think 2 or 3 years ago, and the children planted this in the Ecology Club at TJ, and it has wonderful like brown-eyed Susans here. This is a button bush that they're growing together on here. We have some echinaceas here, purple coneflowers. I really like the way that the logs are laid along the trail. Here it gives you really a good outline of where the trail is. Now we have the non-native butterfly bush. This is actually from Australia. It really attracts butterflies. There's one right there now, a tiger swallowtail. It's just gorgeous on there. This is non-native. It's quite invasive. It's a beautiful plant, but we have to constantly be weeding it back because it overtakes the other native plants. So, and there's some milkweed. This is a really valuable plant. That's the only plant that the monarch butterfly will lay its eggs on. It's without the milkweed, we have no monarchs. That's one of the reasons that one of the many reasons that the monarchs are in decline is we're taking out the milkweed areas. But all these beautiful brown-eyed Susans here. Great. Now we're coming out to an area where it's thinning out because this was just planted this year, and in a couple years this whole area that we're coming to will look just like this. It'll be totally filled in, and we're coming up, and we have some of the sculptures that the children of the art club did, and we'll meet Mark Robarge in a minute, tell us about those. And we have a summer sweet here. This is a wonderful shrub we talked about in another show on the Jefferson Street connector. This grows quite tall and fills in, has a beautiful flower in July, you can see. We have the bee balm. You can see a bee on the bee balm right now. And what else we have? We have spice bush here. This will grow big. Beautiful. Smells like lemon. It's great. More bee balm, brown-eyed Susans. Over here we have the little tent that we made, the bamboo tent with the beans on it. And this will be totally filled in, and the beans are growing on it. Let's see if any of them are edible right now. Yeah, there's a couple of them right now. That's great. And then we have the New England asters over here that were planted. And oh my goodness, here we come to something pretty impressive right now. This isn't a plant, but quite a totem pole. Mark Robarge, how you doing?
Good. Hi, Dave. How are you?
How you doing? You got your son here with you?
Got my son Jordan here.
That's great.
Yep.
Well, Mark, you are and your students are responsible for this, I understand.
We certainly are. Yeah.
And is that the art club?
That's the art club.
And you're the art instructor, I believe, at TJ.
I'm the art teacher at TJ, and Cheryl Kenny and Kathy Ben run the art club. Ran the art club last year, and it was really, in a large part, their brainchild.
So tell us about the totem.
Well, the idea was that maybe if we made a totem pole like the Native Americans did, you know, they used cedar trees to make their totems.
Okay.
Wood carving was a little bit beyond us, so we decided to...
How old were the kids?
The kids were 4th and 5th grade, so maybe 9, 10 years old.
Right, okay.
Yeah. So we decided to make a ceramic totem pole in this location, and that's what we did. Each kid in the art club made their own animal. And you can see that there's, I think, a total of about 23 animals. Elizabeth did the beaver here, and then Rebecca did, I believe that's a possum. And then, let's see, Melanie did the mouse. Laura did a rabbit. Jason did an eagle. Karina did a skunk. Then we have another possum here by Sarah. And then on top of that is Bird by Saria. And then Tim did, I believe his was a beaver as well. And then Ben did a fox. And we have a skunk. You can tell by the
oh, yeah. Ooh.
Yeah,
That's
Andy
scary.
did a skunk. And capping the top of the totem pole, Morgan did a deer. Melanie, who did a little lizard. Ashton did a hawk, I believe, another bird. And then on top of that, we have Andrew with another bird. Brian did a snake. We have a frog here by Dana. And Shushmita did an owl. Let's see, I'm trying to remember if this is I think that's another possum. Some of the animals are a little, I think it's a possum by Tori. And then we have a bunny by Andrea.
Great.
Another bird by Peter. And then we have a white wolf by KK. And then on top, Caitlin did a horse.
Well, this is unique in Falls Church. I think unique to Falls Church and unique in Falls Church. And we owe you a great debt for having done this, and your children and the leaders of the art club. And I hope everybody comes down to see this.
It was our pleasure, and I hope they come too. Yeah.
Thanks,
Good.
Mark.
Thanks,
Let's go
Dave.
on and we'll see some of the rest of this stuff.
All
Good.
right.
Thanks,
See ya.
Mark.
Alrighty.
See you later. Well, just beyond the totem pole, we have these coreopsis, two kinds of coreopsis here. We have the low bush, and then I guess they call them high bush coreopsis. You can see how tall these are, and they're blooming, and these are the first blooming. There's some more milkweed and bee balm, and this is a great little area that some of the children planted also. And when we come over by the ironweed, here's Annette Mills, the person who founded this trail. Hi, Annette, how you doing?
Just fine, David. Good to see you.
Good seeing you. This is great. Ironweed, there's a bee coming up to it right now.
And really enjoying that.
The heads are on on the flowers are there, and they're actually blooming ahead of schedule. But so you founded this trail. How come?
Well, let's say that the Ecology Club founded this trail.
Well, you founded the Ecology Club.
All right.
Okay.
We wanted to give the Ecology Club members an opportunity in habitat restoration, to really give them a chance to see that their efforts can make a difference. In this area, there has been a tremendous amount of habitat loss, and in the process, different kinds of animals have been endangered and have lost their homes. So much of the area has been either bulldozed or plowed under, and of course when that happens we lose native species of plants and animals. So we wanted to find a habitat restoration project. We thought butterflies would be a good choice since they're beautiful, they're easy to attract, and also they play an important function in the pollination of plants and so on. And
Great.
In terms of the trail is such a key element to this garden because it really invites people into the garden. It draws people along the garden path and gives people a chance to enjoy and learn at the same time.
Yeah, it gives a sense of structure. You have
Absolutely.
the little fencing here and all the little logs and everything. It just feels like you're in a place when you're here.
Exactly.
Now, how did you go about doing this?
Well, when we started, actually last fall was when we first came out here as a group and we took a look at this area. Believe it or not, all of this was simply grass planted in very compacted clay soil. So the first thing we needed to do was to improve the soil so that the plants could grow well. So we divided the kids into 8 different groups, 8 different teams. Each group was responsible for planting native species to draw a particular kind of butterfly. So we had one group called the monarchs, and another one was the red admirals, and so on and so forth.
How many kids are you talking about?
There were about 30 kids involved in this project.
So you had about 4 kids to a group almost,
Oh.
using higher math.
Yeah, right, right. And so the kids divided up their areas using things like bamboo and logs that we found. And their first job, after they knew which was their area, was to lay down some mulch just to cover that grass and begin to change the complexion of the soil. And we started doing that actually end of fall, early winter. And we put down layers of mulch, layers of improved soil.
With a lot of humus in it.
A lot of humus in it, give a chance to add some life to that soil. And then when the spring came, early spring, the kids actually dug their holes and planted mostly native species of plants.
So the mulch and soil had really worked together and had started to
over the
form
winter
soil.
time.
Okay.
Over the winter
Alrighty.
time.
So you wouldn't just do that and then plant right in it right away. Okay.
So it had time to sit there and really develop.
Well, yeah, mixing the Ecology Club and the Art Club was kind of interesting. How did that occur?
Well, Kathy Ben, who is one of the leaders of the Art Club, contacted me last summer.
Okay.
And it was actually her idea to do a joint project. We're hoping to use it as an outdoor classroom for the classes at TJ. We'll be working this fall in putting together some curriculum and ideas for how teachers can actually bring their students out and utilize the butterfly garden.
So they can learn about nature not just through books and computers and videos, but maybe learning from nature?
Exactly, nature
directly.
itself, yeah.
One of the most interesting things to me is that right in the middle of Falls Church, right in the middle of one of the fastest urbanizing areas anywhere, we have magnificent old houses and trees, beautiful music still in homes and on the streets, marvelous places to gather, and trails to return home on. It makes me wonder why these wonderful qualities of village life remain here in Falls Church.